The Game Boy Advance SP. I just love the Game Boy Advance SP. This system was my very first introduction to gaming, and for that reason, it will always hold a special place in my heart. And one of my favorite things about the Game Boy Advance SP is its selection of limited edition variants. I don't know how many of you have had a deep dive into the Game Boy Advance SP's limited edition consoles, but it is an absolute treat. There is just an insane amount of them out there, and some of them are really wacky, so I thought it would be a pretty cool idea to go through them in today's video. And what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at each special edition Game Boy Advance SP system and place them into one of three categories. They will either go into the good, the bad, or the ugly. Before we get into this, it would be greatly appreciated if you could please hit that like button if you enjoyed the video, and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more videos just like this one. Anyways, let's get into this. The GBA SP NES Edition. This limited edition variant of the Game Boy Advance SP is probably one of the more widely known ones, and it is simply just a design that is inspired by the Nintendo Entertainment System. And what I love about this system is that the outer shell is inspired by the NES console itself, whilst the inside is inspired by the controller. Taking a look at the outer shell, it's got those grooves on the right hand side just like the NES, and as well as this, the Nintendo logo is actually red and black, which just looks really cool and kind of pops out at the eye as well when you're looking at this system. Taking a look at the inside of the system, you can see how it is just inspired by the controller. You've got the red A and B buttons, black D-pad, and the black texture over the base of the controller plate. And all of this just comes together really well. I just love how the design both takes elements from the console itself as well as the controller. I think that works really well. So for those reasons, this system is going in the good. The GBA SP Famicom Edition. This limited edition Game Boy Advance SP just takes the color scheme from the Nintendo Famicom and applies it to the Game Boy. So it's got that nice pearly white color along with the burgundy red, and yeah, I mean, that's all there really is to this one. I think the color scheme looks really nice. Obviously, it isn't actually taking elements from the Famicom system like we just saw with the NES edition. It is simply just taking the color palette and slapping it on a Game Boy Advance SP. And I think it looks great. So this one is also going in the good. The GBA SP Zelda Edition. This limited edition Game Boy Advance SP was, from my understanding, only released in Europe, and taking a look at it, it is just a gold Game Boy Advance SP with the Triforce symbol on the outer shell, and when you open it up, it has got another symbol from The Legend of Zelda in the bottom right hand corner. And look, despite it being relatively simplistic in a lot of ways, the fact that it's gold is just amazing. I really love this edition of the Game Boy Advance SP, and it's probably on my wish list to own one day. So without a doubt, the Zelda edition of the GBA SP is going in the good. The GBA SP Naruto Orange Edition. The Naruto Orange Game Boy Advance SP, as the name may suggest, takes the color scheme from Naruto and chucks it on a GBA SP. So on the outer shell, it's got that nice orange color on it, and what I'm guessing is some sort of symbol from the show. I have never watched Naruto, so I have no idea what it means, but I'm guessing it's got some kind of relevance. I'm just trying to work out what it is. Just taking a look at it now. It kind of looks like the tentacle of an octopus with a pimple on it, but if you guys know what that is, drop a comment down below. But anyways, that's the outer shell. Taking a look at the inside, it's the same orange color with the blue buttons, and that's pretty much it for this one. Whilst this system is pretty aesthetically pleasing to look at, I just don't think it separates itself enough from some other consoles. As you'll see even later on in this video, there are other orange Game Boy Advance SPs out there, and this one just doesn't set itself apart enough for me to really like it a lot. So for that reason, the Naruto Orange Game Boy Advance SP is going in the bad. The GBA SP Mario Edition. This is another one that was only released in Europe, and I think it looks amazing. The color scheme on this system is just flawless. It's got the Mario red on the top half and a really nice metallic silver color on the bottom, and I think these two colors go together so well. Other than that, the only other real addition to this system is the Mario logo on the outer shell. Other than that, it's just a different color scheme on the device, but I think it looks really awesome, and you really can't find any other Game Boy Advance SP with a color scheme that is quite like this one. So for those reasons, the Mario edition of the GBA SP is going in the good. The GBA SP Charizard Edition. Taking a look at this design, just what is going on here? Why is it just the wackiest outline sketch of a Charizard on the outer shell? I really just don't get it. They could have made it look so much cooler, but it's such a minimalistic design to the point where I think this is just a missed opportunity here. And opening up the system isn't much better. It's just got a Charizard design in the bottom right corner. Granted, it's got more detail on it than the Charizard on the outer shell, but nonetheless, it's just so minimalistic and boring in my opinion. Like, I know I already said this, but they could have done so much more with this system. It is probably the biggest missed opportunity of all time in the universe. Okay, that's probably a little bit of an overstatement, but nonetheless, this system sucks. So for those reasons, the Charizard edition of the GBA SP is going in the ugly. The GBA SP Venusaur Edition. Oh my god, they did it twice, guys. This is the exact same as the Charizard one, but it's green and has a really boring outline of Venusaur on the front, and another one in the bottom right corner when the device is opened up. And since it's got no other redeeming qualities over the Charizard Edition, the Venusaur Edition is also going in the ugly. The GBA SP Pikachu Edition. Now this is a limited edition Pokemon GBA SP that actually makes sense. They didn't just put a minimalistic outline sketch of a Pikachu on the front. No, it's got Pikachu's whole face plastered on it, and whilst it's a little bit in your face, if you will, I think any Pikachu fan out there would absolutely love this design. And opening up the system, it's got the same yellow color as the outside, and yellow buttons as well as a Pikachu outline in the bottom right hand corner, which, you know, similarly to the Charizard and Venusaur, I feel like they probably could have done something a little bit more exciting there, but nonetheless, I think the design on the outer shell really does carry this model. So for that reason, the GBA SP Pikachu Edition is going in the good. The GBA SP Kingdom Hearts Edition. Now, I'm no Kingdom Hearts fan, but I think this design looks awesome. Similarly to the Mario one, actually, it's just got a really nice color scheme. It's got the silver on the top half of the outer shell and that nice charcoalish color on the bottom, and I think those two colors go really nicely together. It's also got a pattern design on the outer shell, although I can't really comment too much on it because I have no idea what relevance it has to the Kingdom Hearts franchise. And opening it up, it's got that charcoal color all through the inside, as well as gray buttons and some additional designs on the bottom left and bottom right corners. Overall, it's a simplistic design, but I just think it looks so clean. I really do like this one, so it is going in the good. The GBA SP Final Fantasy Pearl White Edition. Yeah, I'm looking at this one and I'm just thinking to myself that if I was a Final Fantasy fan and this was the limited edition system I got, I would be pretty disappointed because there's just nothing here. It's just a new color scheme for the GBA SP, and with that, the color they've chosen is pretty bland in my opinion. Like, don't get me wrong, the Pearl White color is clean, but it's just not unique enough. It's too similar to the basic silver Game Boy Advance SP that everyone already has. So, I don't know. This one kind of sucks. I'm putting it in the ugly because if you've got a special edition system for a game franchise, it needs to have something on there that kind of symbolizes that franchise, and this really just doesn't have any of that, so I really can't justify putting it any higher. The GBA SP Torchic Orange Edition. Remember what I said about the Naruto Edition? Yeah, this is pretty much the exact same as that, but without the symbol on the outer shell. It's just an orange Game Boy Advance SP, and I don't know, like, the orange color is cool and all, but if you're gonna brand it as a Torchic edition of the system, put something on there that relates to Torchic, please. As I said before, it's not even that unique because there are other orange editions out there, so this really isn't doing anything for me here, so I'm putting it straight into the ugly. The GBA SP Groudon Edition. Now, I think by the time this one came out, Nintendo learnt their lesson based on the other ones, because the outer shell design on this is just a lot better than the Charizard and Venusaur ones. Whilst it is still a pretty minimalistic design, it does at least take up the full outer shell, and there's a bit of color in Groudon's eye as well, which does jump out at you and gives it a bit more character. Actually, I'd like to take back what I just said about Nintendo learning their lesson, because this one actually came out before the Charizard and Venusaur editions, so that's kind of sucky because this is way better than them, and it seems like they just downgraded the Pokemon designs heavily for the Fire Red and Leaf Green editions, but that's okay, at least this one doesn't completely suck. Opening up the design here, it does suck as much as the Charizard and Venusaur ones because it's just got a teeny weeny Groudon in the bottom right corner, just kind of, well, it looks like it's just growling at the start button for some reason, and that kind of sucks. So overall, this design is definitely better than some of the other Pokemon designs we've looked at, but it's still nowhere near perfect. So the Groudon edition of the GBA SP is going in the bad. The GBA SP Kyogre Edition, and as you guys can see here, this is exactly the same as the Groudon Edition, but themed for Kyogre, so I'm just gonna pretty much skip over this one. I'll quickly show the outer shell here, and this is what it looks like when the system is opened up, and it is going straight into the bad. The GBA SP Rayquaza Edition. Nintendo, please, why do you keep doing this? I think this one actually came out at the same time as the Charizard and Venusaur ones, which is probably why it went back to this design, but as I've already mentioned, it just sucks. Like, why is it just a light green outline of Rayquaza on the front, which is also pretty small, like it doesn't even take up the full space they've got to use on that outer shell. It's just lazy and minimalistic, and I hate it, alright? So it's going in the ugly. The GBA SP Donkey Kong Edition. Taking a look at the outer shell, it's got that classic yellow color there, with a little DK symbol in the bottom right corner. Nothing too crazy about that, and opening it up, it's just yellow with brown buttons. And just looking at this, it looks very similar to the Pikachu Edition, although the Pikachu Edition has red buttons rather than the brown color scheme they've got here. But other than that, I just think the design is, again, a bit too simplistic on this one for my liking. It's definitely not horrible, but it's not the best either, so I'm gonna put the Donkey Kong GBA SP Edition in the bad. The GBA SP SpongeBob Edition. It's actually kind of wild how many different yellow variants of the GBA SP there are, because I don't think yellow's the most popular color in the world, but obviously there was reason to do it because Pikachu and SpongeBob are two pretty popular characters which happen to be yellow, so I guess when you look at it that way, it does make sense. But anyways, this SpongeBob Edition is very similar to the Pikachu Edition, as it's just got SpongeBob's face plastered on the outer shell there, and opening it up, it's just got a yellow interface with yellow buttons, and it's got SpongeBob in the bottom right corner, and a few spots on the bottom left and the top middle as well, which I guess are meant to represent the holes in a sponge, like you'd see on SpongeBob. So I think that's kind of cool. I don't know. I definitely wouldn't want to own this one, but I think if you were really into SpongeBob, I get why you would love it, so I've got to put this one in the good. The GBA SP Starlight Gold Edition. This is just a color variant of the GBA SP, which I believe was exclusive to Toys R Us back in the day, and there's not really too much more to talk about other than the color. So this is another gold Game Boy Advance SP, although I do think it actually differentiates itself from the Zelda Edition enough to be good, because if you look at these side by side, they're both gold, but they're very, very different shades of gold. The Starlight Gold is a lot more of a lighter, soft softer tone, whereas the Zelda one is a more in-your-face gold color. So I think they do both have their merits, and I do love gold shiny things. So the Starlight Gold GBA SP is going in the good. The GBA SP All Blacks Edition. This one was exclusive to New Zealand because obviously it is based on their rugby team, but pretty much it's just got the logo on the outer shell, and then it is in line with the team's color scheme, all black, including the buttons. I don't really understand why this one exists. I think it's a bit of a weird combo to have a sports team GBA SP Edition, but there's not really anything wrong with it either. And I do think a console that is all black would be appealing to quite a lot of people, but it's just not really appealing to me, so I'm gonna put it in the bad. The GBA SP Rip Curl Edition. I'm not sure how global of a brand Rip Curl is, but this one was, I believe, an Australian exclusive model, and Rip Curl is just a beachwear clothing brand in Australia. It might also be in other places around the world, but I definitely know it's big in Australia, and it's just kind of weird to have this, of all things, on a GBA SP. I don't know why this exists, but it does. But anyways, looking at the outer shell, it's got the Rip Curl logo on it in a few different ways, as well as some scribbles on the top and the right hand sides. And it has a nice little inspirational quote on it, which says, "The search is closer than you think." Wow, very deep and meaningful. But then opening the system up, it's got the burgundy color buttons and the Rip Curl logo in the bottom left corner. And overall, like, it's definitely not an awful system, but I just don't get why anyone would ever want to own one of these just because it's a clothing brand. I think it's just so bizarre. So this one is going in the bad. And lastly, we've got the GBA SP Tribal Tattoo Edition. And this is a model of the GBA SP I remember seeing in school back in the day. I think one of my friends owned this one, so I do remember it quite well. But on the outer shell, it's just got a tattoo design, which I think looks pretty sick. And then opening up the system, it's got 3 more as well, with 2 in each of the bottom corners and 1 in the middle. And overall, I think this one's pretty cool, so it's going in the good. And yeah, that wraps up the video. I think overall we covered 20 different special edition GBAs, and although I'm pretty sure this is most of them, I know for a fact it's not all of them. There's definitely a few that I just couldn't find enough information on online, but I did my best to compile this list together, and I'm pretty sure this video does cover all of the major ones. So if there's any really big ones I missed, whoopsies, just let me know in the comments down below and I'll give it a good, bad, or ugly score in the comments. So yeah, anyways, that's it for today's video. Leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you want to see more just like this, and I'll see you guys with another video later. Bye bye.